booking this webinar today, we have had more changing environment and changing circumstances for us to navigate our way through. So today we hope to inspire you with some fresh ideas. We would like to share with you some insights from our latest report, the new normal in Sweden, which you received in the calendar invite or in the mail invitation before this session. And we'll make sure you also get a copy of this afterwards as well. So I will be talking through the key findings in that report to start with. And then we will have discussions of our own experience at PwC with the wonderful HR director, Katarina Rudder. So really looking forward to chatting a little bit about our own experiences and how Katarina and the team have navigated the COVID situation for PwC. And then, of course, we open up as well to questions from you, and would love to hear from you on any topic there that sparks interest. So as we jump in, we mentioned already the new normal report, and this I hope you've had a chance to have a look through, but if not, please feel free. This report was developed through interviews that we have done with HR leaders across Sweden from a variety of contexts, both from multinational organizations to very small boutique Stockholm-based companies. Today, we will highlight really the key trends, risks, and opportunities that we saw across these interviews that came back. And we will spend really the first half of this session going through that. And then we will, as I mentioned, really bring that to life through our discussions with Katarina. Unless there's any burning questions, I think we jump straight in. Great. So trend number one. So to talk through briefly these trends, what we saw really as we went through this report was a new way that HR is being taking themselves and putting themselves in the driver's seat for this new scenario and these new questions that are coming up with the pandemic. So HR is really always, had the aim and the goal to be at the table with the rest of the leadership team. In some cases, that's been very clear and very evident that of course that's the way it should be. In other organizations, it's more of a motivation to really why HR should have a seat at the table. Certainly, we've seen with the pandemic and as the types of questions that are coming up now, there is no question to that anymore. HR is put into the spotlight in a way that we haven't necessarily seen before in a clear burning platform as to why the people topics are so important. We're finding that the leadership team or HR is in a position now where they're often looking after the crisis response as well, which provides a different working relationship with the leadership team. And really ensures that there's I guess a new, more complex challenge to work on together, which is uniting leadership teams in a new way and helping to deepen those relationships. And that's a really exciting role for HR to be in at the moment. And certainly something that we saw as being a really key theme across all of the interviews that we went through. If we continue on to the next slide, some of the core topics that HR is really focusing on the moment, the number one, and I'm sure that's something that you're resonating with as well, is around well-being. Making sure that we're looking after our employees under difficult times. There is multiple complexities in terms of employees working virtually, so not being seen as much anymore, but also just making sure that people are okay in such difficult and uncertain times that we've not experienced globally for a very long time. So we're seeing a real focus on well-being and on understanding from leadership, how can we support well-being in a better way and upskill so that we can do that? And also, how can we use our advanced technologies and our new world that we have today to really support us in our mission with well-being? And HR analytics is becoming a very popular tool that we can use then to really keep our finger on the pulse more with how our organization is going and what they're doing. We'll come back. Well-being will be a theme throughout our trends, our risks, and our opportunities. So we'll come back and speak about this more as well. We also see, the very clear and obvious one that I think a lot of people have talked about around balancing digital. Virtual leadership has been a new skill, I think, for a lot of people to work through. And that's something our HR leaders talked about a lot, was the real need to coach and upskill to make sure that our leaders are prepared to look after this new way of leading and coaching with their organizations. And that is a new skill set in many ways. There's a new balance in terms of the control and trust. Often, I think as leaders, there was a real sense of security when you could see someone typing very hard on their computer next to you, or working very hard on the shop floor. Whereas now, when a lot of activities are now being switched to a virtual environment, we see that some leaders, especially in the beginning, had a little bit of difficulty coming over the hurdle of understanding that even if they're out of sight, they can still be productive. And how to then balance that relationship and continue to drive productivity in a positive way. So, and I guess on top of that, there's also then additional risks and challenges that we'll talk through as we get to those sections as well, in terms of, how do you then make sure that that's done in a secure and safe way. Trend number 4 was around sustaining employee experience and the cultural strengths. And this was something that we see as being more and more the discussion topic. So we've definitely seen a shift from, I guess, the earlier stages of the pandemic, where we were more reactive. The questions were more, can our workforce function in this new environment? Can we continue to be productive? And now, as we're shifting further and further into a more of a longer term view, we start to wonder about the sustainability. So will we be able to continue to have the same employee experience that we have promised our employees? Can we continue to grow and build our cultural strength even under these new environments? Without the office as a hub in many organizations, that is a real question to discuss. The office has often been, that central place where you can visualize the cultural elements, you can reinforce ways, behaviors and ways of working. And that now has become something that we need to think creatively around how to do that, either through our computers or through our other ways of working together. Great. That is, of course, is our 4 trends. I've wrapped through these very quickly. We want to make sure we have time to talk more practically about these as well. We then move into our risks that we see, and these are really connected with our trends as well. So the first risk is really around common culture loss. And as I talked about, in terms of sustaining the employee experience and cultural strengths, one of the risks that we see at the moment is, how can we make sure that experience that we have online is the same, that our culture is embedded and maintained throughout the extended period that we have of being at home and being a bit more disconnected. So the common culture loss we see can be things like the way we look at our behaviors, the way we look at our the way we talk in our groups that we're connecting with. We're finding when we come to virtual, it's a smaller audience that you're connecting with. So you might connect with the people that you work with on your daily tasks, but we're missing those spontaneous lunch catch-ups, the coffee machine meetings that we have, which are all elements that help to reinforce culture. And also missing the opportunity to maybe attend kind of broader events and things that we have done before as well. So there is a lot we can do there, and I'll save more of our practical conversation as we talk to Katarina Brodar as well. The second risk, and one that I think many of you will be very familiar with, is losing sight of the vulnerable employees. We have definitely seen this as one of the primary and first things that have come up in all of the interviews that we have had. That the vulnerable employees are those that are potentially in difficult circumstances, not able to work in the same way, perhaps more affected by the anxiety that might come with the pandemic, or perhaps in a situation already with their own circumstances where we need to support them. And that can be more and more difficult when working virtually and working away. So those employees will then really need to be supported, and the leadership need to be able to support in a way that is still sensitive to those people. And HR teams are really asking this question, you know, are we losing sight of these people? Are we able to make sure that they are still okay, and checking on them in the right way, both whilst we're in periods of working from home, but also in the transition back to the office, you know, when that happens. And certainly we've seen some offices that have come back during summer and are now come back onto periods of extended leave, and some that have chosen to work from home continuously throughout that time. We'll continue to come back to that topic again as well shortly too. The third risk was really around diversity being down prioritized. And that trend we saw really in the way that we very rapidly responded to the situation. So certainly diversity is something that we have as HR professionals worked very, very tirelessly towards really lifting the bar for many years, to really try to create a space that is inclusive, a space that encourages all people from different walks of life, and in a way that is not biased or discriminatory. And we, I think, have made huge steps forward over the past decade even in this space. Of course, in a rapid responding COVID crisis, there are some positives, and one of the positives is the ability to be so agile in our response. But what we have seen as a risk that can come with that is perhaps less time spent on, does this solution that we have fit for everybody in different circumstances? And does this solution that comes out of this meet the needs, or is there anything else that we need to do to prop up people as well? So certainly we have seen that for example, working from home can work extremely well for those who have a bit of extra space, a couple of rooms that they can then work from, but is not necessarily as easy for those who perhaps are working, living two people in a studio apartment and then need to try and synchronize who has a meeting when. That's a very simple example, but certainly something where we need to consider our strategies and make sure that we're checking ourselves to see if we're still bringing the same diversity lens to our structure as we were before. All right, and then finally, the last, I guess, three opportunities that we have seen, and certainly there are many opportunities within these circumstances as well, but the three that we have seen that have come up are firstly finding the formula for the future of work. So thinking about really what can we take from this situation that we're in now, and how can we find a way to balance and make things really work for us? So there are a number of workforce implications that come from this COVID situation. Some are really positive, and we have now learned that in many cases we can work a lot more virtual and a lot more mobile and a lot more remotely than we thought we could before. And what will that mean for us in terms of the way that our workforce is structured and fits together? And also, what are the needs of our people that are shifting as we continue to move into a new normal, and now into really the next normal? We'll be thinking about really, perhaps there's new expectations from an organization, and there's also new expectations from our workforce, who now are perhaps used to working from home and have started to change their lifestyles and their lives to adjust to this new situation as well. So finding your formula for the future of work is the opportunity to really start that dialogue with your people and start to be more comfortable to reimagine what the future looks like. Excellent. The second opportunity is really the opportunity to put health as a strategic priority. So as we talked about, well-being is really the #1 focus topic for many organizations right now. And now is a fantastic opportunity to raise the bar with how we work with health. It's something that I think is becoming new, or we certainly have seen from our interviews, is becoming a new expectation from employees that there will be that responsibility taken from HR to support the workforce from a well-being perspective, as well as ensuring productivity and a good career experience. So here's an opportunity to really make sure to invest in health, to make sure that we're including HR analytics, to make sure we are supporting by building proper infrastructure, including governance bodies and including the organization, the budget, the structure, in order to support health in the organization. And certainly, I think that's something we'll talk about more with Katarina as well very shortly. And the final opportunity is the opportunity to upskill. The future is now, the future is here. I think we've all seen this as a real burning platform for change, and something that we have managed to come very far in a very short period of time, with a lot of technical changes that are happening. Many of the HR leaders we talked about today talked about that changes, especially digital transformations that have been expected to take many years to be embedded into the organization, have really come forward and very quickly been embedded in a way that has been fantastic to see. And that opportunity to upskill is really something that we should take the advantage of now. The future will only be more and more digital and more advanced in our way of working with digital tools, and also with some of the more advanced analytics and other elements that come with that as well. And there will be new skills required more and more as we continue into the future. So our last opportunity that we saw was a real acknowledgement of that we need to think forward now and start to prepare for the next phase. And we will talk as well with Katarina a lot more about how we have done that practically at PwC as well. Perfect. Great. So thank you. So that was a very speedy summary of the report. We do have a lot of extra detail that you will find in that report, which we have sent prior, and we will send it after this presentation as well. But to make it more practical and to bring it to life, we have also got our wonderful HR director, Katarina, with us today. Katarina, thank you so much for joining. I know you and I have worked closely for many years on some of these topics.
Yeah. So I'm happy to talk to you about it.
Yeah, wonderful. Very wonderful. So what we might do, we've got some structured questions to go through with Katarina now, based on some of the themes that we know from this report have been very, very important for PwC. Katarina, perhaps we'll start there, and then we really encourage everyone to join the conversation. So if you have any questions, please add to the chat. We will take some structured questions, but we love this to be a dialogue. So please feel free. And we'll definitely, I just saw that chat come up. We'll definitely make sure you receive the report afterwards as well. So we've got that one under control. Excellent. So we might jump in then, Katarina, and we might start straight with the first question. What impact has COVID-19 had on PwC, and what role has HR played?
Oh, yeah, that's a nice and big question. But I would like to start with that. It has been, like you say in the report, the ultimate burning platform for change for us, like for so many others. We are a professional service company where relationships with our people and our clients are the most important, of course. And of course, that also has been a huge change for all of us, not being able to interact in the same way that we're used to, and also having totally different questions from our people and our clients due to the pandemic and the new normal. But that has also been a big opportunity for us to change ways of working. And a positive impact on self-leadership and also development of the business, of course. We have a strong culture, and that has been very important to leverage on, and also to keep it strong in this time. The digital transformation has been fast, and the digital upskilling of our people just as fast. But it has also been a challenge, like you said before, to manage the business remotely and having to lead remotely for our leaders, and to be able to make sure that everybody are safe and making sure of the well-being of our people, like I think all companies have experienced during this time. But I'm also very proud of all of our people and of our leadership, and how they have pitched in to really make the best of the situation for both ourselves internally, but also for our clients. Yeah, because our people have been working from home most of this time since spring. And we have had our offices open, but recommendations to work from home. And the offices, of course, have been secured with social distancing signs, marked workplaces, and everything you could imagine to make it safe for those that need to be at the office. And you asked a question about HR as well, and HR has been central in driving change and supporting the business and leadership in the beginning of the crisis, and also now in the new normal. I, for example, have had the role of not just being the HR leader but in this time, but also leading the crisis team in the company. So I have, for example, had crisis management, scenario planning, organizational changes, strategy work, and of course a lot of communication on my table. So it's been quite a journey personally, for myself, of course, but also for HR in this time. We are a global network and have, of course, been sharing between the countries and trying to help each other with best practice and also with communications. Our purpose, our values and behaviors have never been more vital than now, as the world has changed around us. The way we behave with each other, our clients, and in the societies we are a part of has become even more critical. So it's, of course, it's been a big effect, like for everybody.
Absolutely, yes, and there's a lot to unpack, I think, as we go through that as well.
Yeah.
But excellent, thank you. You talked a bit about, you've taken on many roles, Katarina, with the leadership team. How have you seen the change, or have you seen a change in the relationship with the leadership team since you've taken on extra hats and responded to the situation?
Well, I've been on the leadership team for a few years now, so it's not like it's a new position for me. So no, I wouldn't say it's a big change, but it's been in some ways different since I was the crisis leader. So sometimes I would be talking about different things they might be used to that I talked about. So in that sense, a bigger collaboration and very much a great experience for everybody, I think, to go through, because everybody had to step up and leverage on how could we help each other in the best way.
Definitely. And
Katarina, sorry to this is Simon interrupting. There's a question here that I think is interesting. If you could put a little bit of words around how we worked with the people data and how that has helped us through this, and what kind of tools we've used that you think are valuable.
Yeah, I think we'll come back to that in the next question. I think Hannah has a thing for that, so I'll wait for that one. I'll hold on to that one and get back to it.
Yeah, but it's a good question. We'll make
it's a really good question. Yeah.
Excellent. And you talked also a little bit about, I guess, our connection as a global firm as well. Can you tell me a bit more about kind of how the global community or HR community has worked together under the COVID crisis?
Yeah, I think we collaborate better than ever in the community now. We have always collaborated. We have had meetings and sharing for many years. But in this time, it was like everybody really got together and everybody needed the help and everybody wanted to contribute to everybody else. And also with a pandemic, it hit some parts of the world earlier than others. So we could learn from the people that had the pandemic earlier. So it was like a journey going through this together. I remember early on in the spring when our people from China, Hong Kong, and from Italy talked about the realization, I mean, the way they were living and what happened in their countries. And that was just amazing to have before it hit us. But in the same sense, you thought, is this really happening? So that helped us both in the way of what happens in the country, not just within the company. And I mean, it was something totally new for us. And I think we all experienced that. And for me, that was really a good way of learning a lot of new things and how to cope with it, because they have tried things and saw what didn't work, what worked very well. So we could help each other in that sense as well. And we had really regular meetings, a lot more regular than we ever had, and we have continued to have that. And also sharing more long perspectives and also short perspectives. I mean, how could we help? So it's been very, very great, and I'm really happy to have had that opportunity to have that help during this time. And also being able to share. Because of course, we have shared also because we do things differently. And of course, Sweden has been really interesting to talk to in this time from the rest of the world, since we chose a different path in handling the pandemic than the rest of the world. So of course, Sweden and how we did it was also very interesting for the rest of the world.
Very, very good point. And I think coming back to your team, you mentioned as well, you know, you had to be a bit creative, I guess, in the way that your team has responded to the situation as well. How have you solved some of the challenges with your HR team?
Well, for us, I think it was we had to get together as well, because it changed quickly. I mean, from being in a situation of, for instance, working a lot with recruitment, all of a sudden we did not recruit a lot because that was an easy task to stop for a moment and see what do we need to be doing. But then we had a situation with other parts of HR really had to change things, like, for example, the whole development part and the learning part, and everything had to be digital and virtual. So we had to look at how can competences work together here and how can we help out. And also be very close to the business and see what needs did the business have in this situation. We had a lot of new people coming on board in the business, and how do we get them on board digitally and have a totally different way of doing things. So that really got everybody together and helping each other. So even their collaboration really had a peak and continues, because it's like it's better to do it together than doing it alone. So and also we had meetings, you know, in smaller teams and the big team, you know, to really share what do we need to be doing now at this time and how do we pitch in for the best for PwC. And also, of course, working together with other internal firm service parts like IT and communications and all the others, to really see how do we do this in the best way together and not just run in one pipe alone, but doing it together. So I think that has really been good, and raising the hand and say, I need help with this, and how do we do it together? So
really good, which is not easy to do when, you know, especially under crisis situations, it's very easy to get in your lane and
exactly
moving.
Yeah.
So great that you had that collaboration as well. Very good. We might move to the next structured question we have here. How is HR responding to the evolving employee experience during the COVID-19 impact? I know we've talked a little bit about this already, but...
Yeah, but we have a talent promise. I might have to say that. That's the opportunity of a lifetime. I said I had it. And that's that the employees should be having an opportunity of a lifetime when they are at PwC and remember it for the rest of their time in other companies. But this is some talent promise to deliver on remotely, and since it also created new expectations from our people on our leadership. So I would say in the beginning, employee well-being was our main focus at first in the spring, because we needed everybody to be safe. We did not know what we could expect. So from having to focus on safe to now more being about keeping the engagement and the motivation and being happy in the new normal, and with, continuing working from home. We started right away in the spring with live digital all staff meetings, and also live all team leader meetings with me and the CEO, I should say. It was a communication channel where everybody could ask questions live. So it was not just us talking. It was actually a lot of the time was the people having time to ask the questions. And we wanted to create an honest and transparent way of communicating in the situation we were in. And this is something that we have continued to do for the rest of the year. And I actually don't see how we can end with this now when we started it. So it's been very good for us. The leadership came very close to our people in doing that. The people got to sit in my this space and also with our CEO. It's not every day they got to do that, to be at my home. So of course we have, it's been good for us in that sense, but it's also been that we have continued to develop that way of communicating with different people talking and topics and themes, and also expanded it to all our businesses. So we don't have this just for the whole company. It's more for teams and for part of business units and so on. So I think that's very good. But then also the HR processes had to really been looked into in, like I said before, we had to change ways of working. And we had to help the business also in those processes because they kept going and we couldn't stop them. So we had to look into who needs what and when. And we also, like I said before, really needed to help each other and collaborate even more. We had done a big digital transformation with our people process before COVID hit us, but the situation accelerated the way we could work with them. And for example, like I said before, our upskilling and reskilling had to be totally digital and virtual. We had the digital onboarding. We had to make sure we had collaboration tools that worked for our people. And we had to support and coach the leadership remotely in a crisis. And really, what did they need in their different days, weeks, months? I mean, it changed over time. So that's why we started with the virtual meetings as well, to help both the people and the leadership in this time.
Really good, really good.
Yeah, so we had to make the best of the situation and be creative to keep the interaction and really to see what we needed to change.
And I must admit, just a quick comment before we continue on. I mean, a lot of the response that you're talking about now, we're talking past tense, things that have happened, but you've really had a very sort of sustainable view in terms of setting up and investing in things that you could see would be really valuable into the future as well. And recognizing that this will change in the long term.
Yeah.
Just a comment to kind of add to that. I think that you've done that really well. When we talk employee experience, we often talk about really three elements. We talk about the culture, we talk about the physical workspace, and we talk about the technology element of it as well. I think you've talked a lot about the technology. We've talked about the processes and ways of working. Where are you in terms of the physical space? What's the discussion on the table there?
Yeah, I think that's a topic that most companies discuss or should discuss because what role will the office play in the future? And what will the workspace of the future be? What do we need it for? Since we now are used to working in a totally different way, and there's some positive sides to it as well. And so I think we need to look into, is it a place for collaboration and creative space rather than what it used to be, a place to sit or be doing your work all week? And what is the perfect mix for this? And how should it's not just the size of the office, it's more of how is it done? I mean, how is it for interaction and collaboration and creative space? You need something totally different than, for instance, rooms where you can sit and work really focused. And that might be something you also need. So it's really, you have to look into what do people really need and what does the business need to be able to be right and fit for the future. So we are really looking into that as well.
Good question to be really diving into at the moment. Especially.
Yeah, and I think, and in connection with that is also, you probably need to have a focus on more of the strategic workforce planning. I mean, how do you make sure that you see the potential in all the people and all the differences we have, and really make that to be the best thing to do? Because how can we then help people in the new normal? Because that would also help what kind of workspace do we need. So I think those need to go together as well.
Yeah, really good point. Exactly. It's a whole picture needs to be thought together. Very excellent. We might keep, I can talk about this topic for forever, but we'll keep moving because I know we haven't got too much time left. And this, I think, is a burning question that is on everyone's minds at the moment. How are PwC supporting the employee well-being?
Oh yeah, that's a very important topic, and it will continue to be, I think. The changes we have done started a few years ago, and I think we have really had help from that during this time, because we have the last year really focused on more the organizational and structural part of well-being, and not just ice cream and balloons, what I usually say. We recruited a new competence for our well-being manager role. We built a new organizational structure for environment responsibilities for leaders, being able to give them the right information and also education or training to be able to know what is expected of them, and also setting up a new set of forums for goal setting for the company in this area, and also to be able to follow up and have discussions in forums. And we have them on a central part, but also really local at the offices around the country. We also set up a new health structure with new insurances and developments for both leaders and employees to really make them fit for this and get the help that they need in different stages in life and in the well-being you have. But then we started actually weekly pulse checks for all our employees from January this year. And I'm so grateful that we did that because it's been very helpful during this whole pandemic. And if you talk about people analytics, this has been so great for us during this time. To really know how our people are doing working from home, more than just having the conversations, of course, and they are very important as well in the meetings and one-to-ones with your employees to have those discussions. But here we also got for groups, for business units, for the whole company. We could see and take the temperature in so many different areas since the people had these weekly pulse checks. And that really helped us to see where to go and what to do, and not do the same thing for everybody, more to see, to focus on the right things in the right areas or for the right people. And we also put up a wherever work site early in the pandemic. It's a guide to remote working with lots of information and inspiration to make the best of the situation. And we usually say it's not just for collaboration and communication, it's for caring and sharing as well. For instance, how do you lead your team in this time? How do you do client-facing work at this time? How to make sure to have the best work environment at home, what to think about, online workouts, upskilling recommendations in this time, inspirational lectures, and so much more. And it's also possible on that site for our people to share their own ideas to inspire and help each other. So it's an interactive site in that sense. So it's not just us doing it. But I also would say that our teams around the country and the world have been very creative with virtual daily or weekly meetings in small or larger groups. digital afterworks with themes, glitter parties, whatever it has been, but also lots of group chats to share both fun contents to make the day easier and more fun. Like you say, we can't chat by the coffee machine, but we can chat on there and have more easy chats, not just serious sharing, because of course there's serious sharing in those chats as well. But we have also talked a lot about walk and talk meetings to come outside and not just sit by the screen all day and get out in the daylight. So mix your day with also those kind of meetings. Yeah, you wanted to ask something.
Can I ask quickly, how have you worked with leadership in order to reinforce some of these positive work-life balance and good well-being practices in our...
Well, we have had what we call future leadership studios. We had those before. It's like virtual meetings with our team leaders. But now, since we also started this more continued and more very more frequent during this time, we had sharing. We had team leaders sharing what they done and to be inspirational for others. We have had external parts coming in and telling what's important to make the situation safe and how to help the leaders to lead in this kind of situation. We have had a person talking about a little bit more about mental health in this situation and what to think about and how to see that and how you as a leader should act in that situation. So it's been a mix of internal inspiration from everybody and sharing, but also having more inspirational outsiders coming in and talking about it, and also being able in that sense interaction of being live and you can ask your questions and get your answer in that sense.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
And I remember even in some of those, we talked about the live forums that all employees can join, even having our CEO talking about his lunch run was so liberating for everyone. Oh, he takes fun too. It's okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But I think that's important because, and I think that was a very good thing to have and we still do. But then we also in 2 weeks we will have an annual holiday show for all our people, and of course this year it's virtual. But I think we have really tried to make that a happy event, even though it's not a face-to-face meeting, and to make the best of that in the normal, this new normal situation. So I think that's also important to keep some of those traditions you have, but do them in a different way. And we also launched a wellness package a few weeks ago with a focus on energy boosts for our people. And we have focused on different levels of energy, I should say, both physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual energy, to have something for everybody, because we all have different expectations and needs. So a lot of different activities in that. And I do believe that we will have to continue with this to really focus on the well-being. And I think that we will focus even more on the mental health going forward as well. But it's like I said before, there are also positive sides to this situation that we're in. And the feedback that I do get a lot from our employees and also leadership is that working from home also gives an opportunity to have a better wellness experience because of the flexibility and the time you have to take care of yourself, do your training, do your walks outside, and being with your family more than you were, instead of rushing off to daycare, catching that bus or train or whatever, and spending long time traveling to work and meetings. And that also a positive side to this. Even if we miss going to the office and see each other and have the socialization with each other, there also is a positive side to this. How do we mix that in the new normal to really see that this is a good thing too for well-being?
Really good question. Really good question. This again is a topic we could talk about forever, but we have one last question to share as well. Looking ahead now, how are PwC upskilling the workforce for the next normal?
Oh yeah, we have done lots. I mean, it's part of our learning culture always, but in this time it's been all about empowering and developing our people and leaders, and also trying to create an even stronger learning culture with focus on self-leadership in this time because of the way we work. So we have innovated and created new ways of working and new tools and technologies, of course, in the PwC network to help us with the upskilling and what the workplace will look like in the future, to really not having to do that in each country. We have also launched a digital fitness app, both internally and externally. Some of you might have seen it and tried it. If you haven't, I would recommend it. We have also launched a new skills program for both upskilling and reskilling for our people, and really get them fit for the new world. There's something for everybody in that as well, and everybody shouldn't be doing everything. It's like you can pick and choose. We have had and will have booth camps for leaders, and of course they are digital as well now, and the content of them are both around leadership and how we look at leadership and what we believe in it will be in the future, but also digital upskilling. We will continue to have focus on well-being and health for our people, to help them with resilience, and also in that sense upskill our people. But we will also have focus on recruiting new competence that we cannot reskill or upskill, to really make also the development and also having this sharing and learning from each other, from new people and new competences. And I think that we will also continue to do the learning and development part of the work we do with our clients, and not see it as just development programs or training. It's also a part of the work we do every day. And I also believe that true innovation and creativity from our people will make it that we have new ideas and also the possibilities to upskill our workforce, that to involve the people and see that the inclusiveness of that is really important. Yeah, and I also believe that if I get to say, I think it's important that we focus to help our people and our leaders to have a growth mindset in this situation and really focus on continuous development, because the changes will never end, and they will go faster and faster. So we better get ready for that. So if we can help our people and leaders to have the growth mindset and see that development is important, then I think we have done the right thing.
Yeah, fantastic. Good, really good final point there, Katarina. And I think I've had the opportunity to join one of those leadership boot camps, and I would say I was so impressed with, the energy and the focus was really, in the right place in terms of, helping leaders to not only become familiar with technology, but also think about leading and letting go of that control of being the expert that knows everything, but how to bring in new skills that and really, learn to collaborate in a new way and let new things come from that.
Exactly.
It was very inspiring to be a part of, and that was only module 1 of the bootcamp. So
yeah, so it's more coming. It's more coming.
Exactly. Wonderful. Well, we are coming into our last 5 minutes. So whilst I know, Katarina, you and I could talk for another hour and a half, I think we'll have to respect everyone's day. Thank you so much, Katarina, for spending some time with us to share a bit about what we're doing at PwC. I think I was looking, it looks as though we don't have any other questions have come through on the chat so far, Simon.
So for now, the voice of the people is silent. It is not too late though. So if you're sitting on a question that you want to post to Hannah or Katarina, you still have a couple of minutes to go.
Exactly. Otherwise, we hope you've taken some great inspiration from Katarina today. Lots of very practical ways of bringing to life some of the topics we talked about. Yeah, great. Looks like we've answered all the questions.
That's great.
Yeah, excellent. Any final words, Katarina, from you before we wrap up for the session today?
Well, I want to say thank you for having me and for being able to share. I really enjoyed this, and I do believe the report is important to read as well, because there's some great insights and like you talked about early on as well. So I really recommend that if you haven't read it. because I think it will help you. But if I should have some end words, I would say that having a growth mindset is something you really should be working on if you don't have it already. And I think you should be curious and bold out there. Everything is possible. Even if there's challenges, there's opportunities as well. So try that. And also for HR, I think you shouldn't wait to be invited to the table. If you're not on the leadership team, for example, take a seat by the table and talk about why you should be there. Because I do believe, like you say in the report, that there's a window of opportunity here for HR. So if you really want to change the position you want to be in, now is the time to act. Don't wait for somebody to ask you. So that's my recommendation of the day.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Katarina. We have a couple of extra takeaways, but we won't go through those now. We'll let you read those. They're the same ones we have in the report, so give you the opportunity to spend some time digesting that material. But I think Katarina's hit the nail on the head in terms of the key areas to focus on for now as well. But thank you all very much. We are a team of professionals here working on the people agenda, can we say. We are the people and organization team. You can see some of our faces on the screen and in the meeting today. But there is a gang of us that work solely on this, really focused to talk to you and on your agenda. So if you have any questions that follow up, please feel free to reach out to us. We have worked alongside Katarina also internally on our own team, so it's very nice to see some of this come to life as well today. But for us today, we just wanted to say thank you very much for joining and taking an hour out with you. I hope it was valuable and gave some inspiration for you as well as we come into the lead up to Christmas. We will send out the report, as we mentioned, and we hope to hear from you and hear about what you're doing and any ways that we can help in the near future. Have a happy weekend and take care.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.